Hello, welcome to EPG Pashala Spanish. My name is Nabil Ansari and I teach Spanish in the Center of Spanish, Portuguese, Italian and Latin American Studies in Jawaharlal Nehru University, New Delhi. We're in the paper entitled Spanish Grammar 1. In this module entitled ¿Qué hace cada día? You will learn to tell about your daily routine, about the frequency of doing any activity, and also about the formation and use of reflexive verbs. Rodrigo is telling about the daily routine of his friend Jose Luis. Pay attention to the highlighted verbs. José Luis se levanta a las 7 de la mañana, se cepilla y se ducha, se viste y toma un café. Luego a las 9 va a la universidad. Él estudia arquitectura porque en el futuro quiere ser arquitecto. A la 1:30 come con sus amigos en un restaurante. A las 4 de la tarde vuelve a casa. Da un paseo por el parque que está cerca de su casa de 5 a 6. Después a las 6:30 estudia por 2 horas. Cena con sus padres en casa a las 9 de la noche. Ve la tele y chatea por internet con sus amigos. Se acuesta a las 12:30 de la noche. So the highlighted verb in the text, as you can see, are se levanta, se cepilla, se ducha, se viste y se acuesta. These verbs are known as reflexive verbs. So what are these verbs? Reflexive verbs are primarily those verbs in Spanish whose action is shared with the subject and the object. Or in other words, the action of the verbs falls on the subject and the object themselves. For example, in English we say I wake up, which means okay, I wake up myself, or I bath, I brush my teeth. So all these actions are performed on our body. Thus, reflexive verbs are very common in Spanish. First, let us see some verbs that are related to the action performed on oneself. So the most basic that you learned is llamarse, which means to be called. So the question is ¿Cómo te llamas? So it has the meaning what's your name or how you call yourself, and the reply is me llamo José Luis, or me llamo, and then you tell the name, which means my name is and your name. So this is the most basic or the reflexive verb that you learned in the beginning. Apart from this, there are verbs used in the audio, verbs like despertarse. Despertarse means to wake up. For example, ¿A qué hora te despiertas? Which means at what time do you wake up? And the reply can vary. Reply here is me despierto a las 7 de la mañana. I wake up at 7 in the morning. Another reflexive verb is levantarse. Levantarse means to get up from the bed. So, for example, ¿A qué hora te levantas? At what time do you get up? And the reply is me levanto a las 7:15. Means I get up at 7:15. Then there are other verbs. For example, cepillarse o lavarse los dientes, which means to brush your teeth. So when I say me cepillo o me lavo los dientes por la mañana, it means that I brush my teeth in the morning. Ducharse means to have a shower. So, example, me ducho con agua caliente, which means I have shower with warm water. Bañarse means to take bath. For example, me baño antes de ir a la universidad. Means I take bath before going to the university. Secarse is to dry oneself or to dry up. Me seco el pelo, which means I dry my hair or I'm drying my hair. Afeitarse means to shave. For example, me afeito por la mañana, means I shave in the morning. Vestirse means to dress up. For example, me visto, which means I dress up. Same way, ponerse la ropa means to put on clothes. For example, me pongo la ropa, I put on clothes. Peinarse is to comb. For example, me peino antes de salir, I comb before going out. Maquillarse means to do makeup. For example, no me maquillo todos los días, I don't do makeup every day. Cortarse las uñas means to cut one's nails. For example, no me corto las uñas por la noche, I don't cut my nails at night. Lavarse las manos means to wash hands. For example, siempre me lavo las manos antes de comer, I always wash my hands before eating. And acostarse means to go to bed. For example, ¿a qué hora te acuestas? Means at what time do you go to bed? The reply can vary. For example, me acuesto a las 11:30, meaning I go to bed at 11:30. And the last one is dormirse, which means to fall asleep. For example, me duermo muy tarde, which means I fall asleep very late. So the reflexive verbs that you have learned till now are, or the most common ones are, llamarse, despertarse, levantarse, cepillarse o lavarse los dientes, ducharse, bañarse, secarse, afeitarse, ponerse la ropa, peinarse, maquillarse, cortarse las uñas, lavarse las manos, acostarse y dormirse. Now you must have observed that these verbs ending with se, this se is the reflexive pronoun and it denotes that the verb is reflexive. So if a verb ends with se, then it means that the verb is reflexive, and this se is a reflexive pronoun that we see at the end of the infinitive form of the verb, and it is taken before the conjugation of the verb to denote that the subject is performing the action on himself or herself. So for example, levantarse, peinarse, ducharse, all these verbs we have seen is denotes that this verb here is reflexive, which means that all these actions are being performed by the subject on himself or herself. Let's see now, after having learned the meaning as well as after having seen its usage, let's see how we form these or how we conjugate these reflexive verbs. So the pronoun that you have already learned, the subject pronouns are yo, tú, él, ella, usted, nosotros, nosotras, vosotros, vosotras, ellos, ellas, ustedes. Now, these reflexive verbs will be conjugated as, if the verb is levantarse, then it will be conjugated as me levanto, te levantas, se levanta, nos levantamos, os levantáis, se levantan. So if there is a need of the subject, then you will add the subject pronoun as well. For example, yo me levanto, o tú te levantas, o él, ella, usted se levanta, etc. Same way, if the verb is ducharse, so it will be conjugated as me ducho, te duchas, se ducha, nos duchamos, os ducháis, se duchan. Now these are conjugations of two reflexive verbs. But now let's see the conjugation of some irregular reflexive verbs. So till now we have seen two conjugation of two regular reflexive verbs like ducharse and levantarse. Now we are going to see the conjugation of some irregular reflexive verbs like despertarse. So it is irregular because here in this verb E in despertar changes into I and IE. For example, it will be conjugated as me despierto, te despiertas, se despierta, nos despertamos, os despertáis y se despiertan. Vestirse. Now this is also an irregular verb, vestir, whereby E will change into I, and the conjugation will be me visto, te vistes, se viste, nos vestimos, os vestís, se visten. Now we have seen the conjugation of some regular verbs as well as some irregular verbs, and also we have seen what these verbs mean. Now the verbs are conjugated in a normal fashion. The only difference is the addition of the reflexive pronoun. As you must have paid attention that before the conjugation of these verbs, reflexive pronouns were added. So these reflexive pronouns are me, te, se and nos, os, se. So these reflexive pronouns means that at the beginning they denote that the action is performed on the subject itself, and when the action is performed on somebody else, the verb ceases to be a reflexive verb. Now to make you understand this, let's see some examples when the verb is used as a reflexive and the verb is used as a normal verb. So but before that, you remember that if a verb is reflexive, it will have reflexive pronoun, as in me, te, se or nos, os, se, and if it is not used as reflexive, it will not have that pronoun. And if it's a reflexive, it means that the action is performed on the subject itself or on the person itself, and if it's not reflexive, then it will mean that the action is performed on someone else. For example, acostarse means to go to bed, because it is a reflexive, so it means that I will go to the bed, or the person on whom this is used means that it will mean that he or she is going to the bed. For example, yo me acuesto, which means that I go to the bed. But if I say la madre acuesta al niño, then it means that the action is performed on the child. So it will mean that the mother is making the child to go to bed. Now to clear this concept more, let's take another example. Bañarse. Bañarse means to take a bath. If I say tú te bañas, it means that you take a bath. But if I say el niño baña al perro, it means that the boy is bathing the dog. In the first sentence, tú te bañas, the reflexive pronoun te is used, which will mean, or which automatically gives the meaning that the action is performed on the subject. And in the second sentence, when it says el niño baña al perro, it means that the action is performed on the dog. That's why reflexive pronoun se is not used here. Another example, maquillarse is to do makeup. So if I say ella se maquilla, it means that she is doing makeup. But maquillar separately as a verb means to do makeup on someone else. So if I say ella maquilla a la modelo, that means she is doing the makeup of the model. So as you can see in the examples, sometimes the same verb can be made reflexive, or the same verbs can be made non-reflexive by simply the addition or removal of the reflexive pronoun. Now let's see some more examples. Me afeito antes de ir a trabajar, which means I shave myself before going to work. So now we are going to see more examples with reflexive verbs, or when the verbs are used as a reflexive verbs. Second example, Raúl y David se duermen. So Raúl and David are falling asleep. Ana se baña, which means Ana is taking a bath. Om se ducha, means Om is having a shower. So bañar se used as reflexive, which means to take a bath, and duchar se used as reflexive, which means to have a shower. Os maquilláis para la fiesta, means you all are doing makeup for the party. And another example, nos despertamos a las 8, which means we wake up at 8 o'clock. Now in these examples that we have seen, we have used reflexive verbs like afeitarse, dormirse, bañarse, ducharse, maquillarse y despertarse. As you see the verbs, you can observe that most of these verbs are used in relation to our daily routine or personal hygiene. But of course, the description of the daily routine cannot be formed only by reflexive verbs, because we have to use other verbs as well. Now let's learn how we can talk about the frequency or time of these activities using the parts of the day. For example, in the morning is said in Spanish as por la mañana, in the afternoon will be por la tarde, and in the evening will be por la noche. And different adverbs of frequency in Spanish are siempre, meaning always, and casi siempre, meaning almost always. Todos los días means every day, and casi todos los días means almost every day. Todos los meses means every month. Todas las tardes means every evening, and todas las noches means every night. Cada día means each day. Cada 2 días means every 2 days. Cada 3 días means every 3 days. Muchas veces means many times. Con frecuencia means frequently. A menudo means often. So these were the different adverbs of frequency. Now again we repeat the days of the week. The days of the weeks are lunes, Monday, martes, Tuesday, miércoles, Wednesday, jueves, Thursday, viernes, Friday, sábado, Saturday, and domingo is Sunday. Other adverbs of frequency are con frecuencia means frequently, a menudo means often, de vez en cuando means from time to time, una vez por semana means once a week, dos veces o tres veces por semana means twice or thrice a week, a veces means sometimes, nunca means never, and casi nunca means almost never. Now these were some of the adverbs of the frequency that we have just learned. Now let's look at a few sentences that shows the frequency of doing certain activities of these people using obviously the reflexive verbs. For example, siempre me afeito antes de ir a trabajar. That is, I always shave before going to work. Me afeito cada 3 días, which means I shave every 3 days. No me afeito nunca. Me gusta la barba, which means I never shave. I like beards. Me levanto a las 6 cada mañana, which means I get up at 6 each morning. No me levanto a las 6 los fines de semana, means I do not get up at 6 on weekends. Me corto las uñas 2 veces al mes, means I cut my nails twice a month. Me cepillo los dientes 2 veces al día, which means I brush my teeth twice a day. No me maquillo los domingos. I don't do makeup on Sundays. So you have seen how the reflexive verbs can be used with the adverbs of frequency. So some of the adverbs of frequency that we have used in the sentences are siempre, cada 3 días, nunca, cada mañana, los fines de semana, 2 veces al mes, 2 veces al día y los domingos. Now let's see some other reflexive verbs. In some cases, the reflexive expresses reciprocal action towards another subject. So till now we have seen the reflexive verbs which tells us that the action is performed by the subject on himself or herself. There are other reflexive verbs which express reciprocal action. For example, conocerse means to know each other. Pelearse is to fight with each other. Amarse is to love each other. Encontrarse is to meet with someone. Now, in order to understand them, let's see some examples. For example, Rama y Paula se conocen desde colegio. It means Rama and Paula know each other since school. Mi hermana y yo siempre nos peleamos. Means my sister and I always fight with each other. So se conocen or nos peleamos. An example, Rama y Paula se aman mucho. Which means Rama and Paula, they love each other a lot. For example, with encontrarse, yo me encuentro con Juan cada día en la cafetería, which means I meet Juan every day in the cafeteria. Now, apart from these verbs which shows that they are reciprocal in nature when it is used with another person, there are another set of reflexive verbs that denote a change in the physical or mental state or social condition. So some verbs which shows change in the physical state are cansarse, which means to get tired, mudarse de, which means to move oneself from or to shift from, trasladarse means to shift oneself from, mojarse means to wet, acercarse a means to get near to something. So it means that you yourself get near to something. Now let's see some examples using these reflexive verbs which denotes the changes in the physical state. Me canso cada vez que voy a la gimnasia. Means I get tired every time I go to the gym. Or Rohan se muda a Barcelona en julio. Means Rohan is moving to Barcelona in July. O me traslado a otro piso nuevo cerca de la universidad. Means I am shifting to a new flat near the university. So these were some of the verbs denoting the change in the physical state of a person. Now there are some other verbs which tells or which shows us the change in the mental state. For example, aburrirse means to get bored. Alegrarse de algo or alegrarse, which means to be happy. Enfadarse means to get angry. Preocuparse means to get worried. Divertirse means to have fun. Now, in order to make you understand this, let's see some examples. For example, aburrirse, example of aburrirse, me aburro durante las vacaciones, means I get bored during vacations. O me alegro mucho de escuchar esta noticia, means I am very happy on hearing this news. Example of enfadarse, mi madre se enfada cuando no me ducho, means my mother gets angry when I don't take bath. Or example of preocuparse, mi madre se preocupa cuando llego a casa muy tarde, means my mother gets worried when I reach home late. Divertirse, example of divertirse, te diviertas en la clase de español, means do you have fun in the Spanish class? So these were some of the verbs or reflexive verbs that shows the change in the mental state of a person. Now there are also reflexive verbs which shows changes in the social condition. For example, to marry someone, to divorce someone, to separate, or to commit suicide. So to casarse means to marry, divorciarse is to divorce, separarse means to separate, and suicidarse is to commit suicide. Now some examples of these verbs. So we take the first example with casarse. Example, me caso con mi novio este año, means I am marrying my boyfriend this year, or my fiancé this year. Sus padres se divorcian. Se divorcian is to divorce. So sus padres se divorcian, his parents are getting divorced. As in this very quick recap of what we did in this module. So we have first seen the daily routine, and how do we say daily routine in Spanish? We use reflexive verbs. Now the reflexive verbs that we learned today, first we learned the regular ones like levantarse, ducharse, and what they mean. And also we saw when and how these reflexive verbs are used. Then we learned about the conjugation of these reflexive regular verbs. After that, we learned some irregular reflexive verbs conjugation. For example, despertarse and vestirse. And not only this, we also learned the uses of reflexive verbs. But we also saw that in order to use reflexive verbs, at times we also need adverbs of frequency. Adverbs of frequency like siempre, nunca, todos los días, todas las noches, etc. So with the verbs of frequency, we normally use the reflexive verbs when we are talking about our daily routine. And we also learned about the parts of the day, like in the morning, which is por la mañana, in the afternoon, which is por la tarde, and in the evening, which is por la noche. And apart from this, we learned the various other usage of the reflexive verbs, and also we saw how this same verb will be different, or the same verb will be can be used as a reflexive verb, and when the same verbs can be used as a regular verb. For example, levantar is a normal verb, so when it is used as levantar, it means that we are waking someone else. And if it is used levantarse, it means that the person is getting himself or herself up. So that is used as reflexive verb. So same way we can use other verbs either as reflexive verbs when we add the reflexive pronouns, that is me, te, se, no, so, se, or the same verbs can be used as normal verbs when we remove the reflexive pronoun from these verbs and we conjugate it without the reflexive pronouns, that is we remove this me, te, se, nos, os, se from these verbs. And also we learned how these reflexive verbs expresses reciprocal action. For example, conocerse, we saw that conocerse, how it means to know each other, and encontrarse, etc. After that, we saw how these reflexive verbs or some of the reflexive verbs can show or can state the changes in the physical state of a person. And in this we saw verbs like cansarse, which means to get tired, mojarse, which means to wet oneself, trasladarse, which means to shift, etc. And after that we saw how some reflexive verbs are used to talk about a mental state of the person. For example, in this we saw aburrirse, enfadarse, preocuparse, etc. So, and we also saw the examples how these verbs will be used. For example, which we saw, me aburro durante las vacaciones, that is I get bored during the vacations. After that we saw how these reflexive verbs shows the changes in the social condition, which was verbs like casarse, divorciarse, that is to marry, to divorce someone, etc. And after that we also saw the meanings of these reflexive verbs, not only the meanings but also the usage in various sentences. Having explained all these things about reflexive verbs, I will advise you to refer to the e-text as well, because it has got more information, more examples, and not only that, it has got more exercises which you can obviously do to practice whether you have whatever you have learned regarding reflexive verbs, and it has also got links if you want to learn more about the reflexive verbs. So kindly refer to the e-text as well. Thank you.